This conference will
electronic
now be
devices,
recorded.
and also we discuss unit-wise syllabus, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and mainly the syllabus is framed mainly to study the major important electronic devices. One is diode, versatile device, diode and its applications, and second BJT and BJT few applications and biasing, and remaining few JFETs and types of JFETs and configurations. Similarly, MOSFET and types and configurations. And also we discuss what are the reference textbooks for to read, to refer, subject electronic devices and circuits. And also we discuss one best example for electronic design system, that is a cell phone, right? Mobile phone. Why? Because mobile phone is the device which is rapidly developed within a 10-year span. Okay, the development of a mobile phone is very huge development, right? Whether in terms of camera size, whether in terms of memory, whether in terms of size, whether in terms of weight of a mobile, right? With respect to all aspects, the mobile phone is rapidly changing, right? Speed also, right? And many initially it is only single SIM mobile phones. Nowadays, dual SIM mobile phones, front cameras, back cameras. So many features are included in mobile phones, right? Then all these things happen only one major improvement in technologies, VLSI technology, microelectronics industry, or some we can, in detail background we can consider that is a semiconductor industry. There is a drastical change in semiconductor industry. That's why we are enjoying the new devices. Okay. Now coming to the today, we begin with basic physics, right? We study some properties of semiconductors and which semiconductor material is used for which semiconductor material is used for fabrication of microelectronic devices, right? Okay, why it is okay? Which semiconductor device? Yes, okay, no problem, right? Which semiconductor device or material is suitable for fabrication of a microelectronic device, right? Observe in a periodic table, chemistry, right? There is some materials, all materials, available materials are classified into some group of periodic tables, right? Now among these all periodic tables, okay, which material is suitable for fabrication of microelectronic devices, right? Like that we briefly discuss about basic physics of semiconductors, right? Now I am sharing one document. Okay, coming to the basic physics of semiconductors, right? Before we going to the study of PN junction diode or PN junction diode, okay. Observe here first two lines, right? Microelectronic circuits are based on complex semiconductor structures that have been under active research for the past 6 decades. Right? Over the past 6 decades, that means decade means 10 years. Over the past 60 years, these all microelectronic circuits are simply electronic circuits. Electronic circuits are based on the structure of semiconductor structures. So, before analyze the any electronic device, first of all, you must analyze the semiconductor structures, right? And in this chapter, we study, I'm coming to observe here. Okay. In first unit, we study the fundamental, important, and versatile device is called the diode. Right. Then before going to the diode, observe here, we must develop a basic understanding of semiconductor materials and their current conduction mechanisms before attacking diodes. So mainly concentrate on this point, right? Not only this, before read diode topics, we must compulsory the basic understanding of semiconductor materials. Not only materials, how the current conduction taking place or current conduction mechanisms in semiconductors, right? Then after that, we go for PN junction diode. Now in semiconductor, we mainly concentrate on, observe here, charge carriers, then doping, then transport of carriers. Then after that only we go for PN junction. Again PN junction structure, reverse biased, forward biased, IV characteristics and circuit models, right? And finally, the main ultimate goal of any electronic student is, okay, observe these two lines. Our ultimate goal is to represent the device by a circuit model, right? We can represent a device, not only either it is a PN device or BJT or FET or MOSFET, by a circuit model. What circuit model consists of? Consisting of resistors, voltage or current sources, capacitors. That means circuit model consists of a voltage source or current source and remaining passive components like resistors, capacitors, maybe inductors also. So that what is the main advantage of circuit model means, once we can represent the any device in circuit model, we can easily analyze it by applying some KVL, by applying some KCL. We can easily find the output voltages and output currents. Like that, we can easily find so many parameters, right? That's why all electronic people try to develop circuit models, right? We cannot simply understand a PN junction device, right? By observing the p-type metal, n-type metal connected, and then we cannot analyze so much. Then how we can analyze means try to develop the equivalent circuit models. Then we can easily analyze the device. Okay. Now coming to the today's topic, semiconductor material and their properties, right? Now in this section, we mainly concentrate on charge carriers in solids. What is the crystal structure? What is the band gap energy, holes, right? And modification of carrier densities, intrinsic semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductor, doping. Then finally, transport of carriers, diffusion and drift, right? Today class, I'm trying to cover these two up to two portions, right? Charge carriers in solids, modification of carrier densities, right? Now here observe here. Okay, Okay, already I think already you may studied in intermediate level, right? The main concentration is we identify charge carriers in solids and formulate their role in current flow, and we examine means of modifying density of charge carriers to create a desired current flow properties. Then we determine the current flow mechanism. Okay, later on we discuss current flow mechanism. Okay, AB part. We first identify the charge carriers in solids and formulate their role in current flow. And we examine means of modifying densities of charge carriers to create desired current flow properties. Now coming to the charge carriers in solids. Okay, this is somewhat basic chemistry background. Recall from basic chemistry that the electrons in an atom orbit the nucleus in different cells. Okay, already we know. The atom's chemical this one is important. The atom's chemical activity is determined by the electrons in the outermost cell, called valence electrons. Okay, up to this one. So you can take any atom. The atom chemical activity, the property of an atom is determined by the electrons in the outermost cell. Okay, now suppose for example I am taking silicon. Why? Because silicon is the most popular material, semiconductor material used for fabricating the microelectronics. What is silicon atomic number? 14. Now what is electron configuration here? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, then 3s2, 3p2. Observe here, first cell, second cell. These two cells are not determined the chemical property of a material. Then which cell determine the chemical property of a material? Outermost cell, 3s2, 3p2. At a third cell, okay, third cell, in S cell 2 electrons, in P cell only, okay, maximum possibility 6 electrons, only it having only 2 electrons. So that outermost cell is 3s2, 3p2. Okay, the third cell determine the chemical property of a silicon material. Remember this one. Like that remaining all also. Okay, finally you can say that what is says the atom's chemical activity is determined by the electrons in the outermost cell called a valence electrons. And how complete this cell is, right? Okay, for example, given some periodic table from minimum to maximum, right? For example, okay, now it is delete. Okay. Okay, given one example. For example, neon exhibits a complete outermost cell with 8 electrons and hence no tendency for chemical reactions. Okay, for neon, okay, it having a complete outermost cell with 8 electrons. That means 3s2, suppose 3s2, 3p6, total 8 electrons are completed and hence there is no tendency for chemical reactions. Next, on the other hand, sodium has only one valence electron, ready to relinquish. That means ready to release, relinquish, or ready to take, or ready to release. And chloride has 7 valence electrons, eager to receive one or more. Both elements are therefore highly reactive. That means mainly concentrate on each material, outermost cell, electrons in the outermost cell, as well as how complete this cell, whether the cell is completed, whether the cell contains only one electron, or whether if it is a one electron means ready to leave. Suppose it contains 7 electrons, it ready to receive. So that means chemical reactions can be highly affected or reactive. Okay. Based on that principle, what happens means for semiconductor point of view, the above principle suggests that atom having approximately 4 valence electrons fall somewhere between inert gases and highly volatile elements. Okay. Now coming to the semiconductor point of view, observe here the third group, fourth group, and fifth group. Okay, this is a part of a periodic table. Here, this one third boron, aluminum, gallium. And coming to the fourth, this one carbon, silicon, germanium, right? I mean fifth one is phosphorus and arsenic, right? Why the people consider only this part of section means only these elements are used for fabrication of electronic devices, right? Now we are mainly talking about the people. So far, people mainly concentrated on silicon. Okay, so far silicon material is suitable for fabrication of semiconductors. And in earlier days, the people also tried for germanium also, right? Silicon, germanium, right? Okay, now finally, then we mainly concentrate upon the chemical activity. The atom's chemical activity is determined by the electrons in the outermost cell. It's called the valence electrons. Depending upon the valence electrons, so we can easily say that whether that is ready to relinquish or whether that is ready to receive, like that, right? Next, coming to the covalent bonds. Okay, okay, all are you studied in intermediate level also. Just this is a recap or revision, right? Covalent bond. A silicon atom descending in isolation contain 4 valence electrons. Okay, observe here figure A, figure 2.3a. Silicon atom, outermost cell contains only 4, 3s2, 3p2, 4 electrons, right? Okay, require another 4 to complete its outermost cell. Okay, silicon atom requires another 4 to complete its outermost cell. Okay, if processed properly, the silicon material can form a crystal wherein each atom is surrounded by exactly 4 others. Okay, if you process the silicon material properly, we can easily form a crystal, silicon crystal. Observe here the figure B, covalent bonds between atoms. Okay, each atom share one electron to the other so that the covalent bond is formed. Okay, as a result, each atom shares one valence electrons with its neighbors, thereby thereby completing its own cell and those of neighbors. The bond thus formed between atom is called a covalent bond. Okay, to emphasize the sharing of valence electrons. Okay, we are mainly concentrate on silicon atom, right? Why? Because silicon is the most popular semiconductor material. Still, we are using the silicon only for manufacturing the microelectronic devices. Silicon atomic number 14 and having outermost cell contains only 4 electrons. How covalent bond is formed means we can, if processed properly, the silicon material can form a crystal where each atom is surrounded exactly 4 others. Okay, this is the figure B is the crystal, silicon crystal. In that, these are all the each silicon atom sharing one electron with other silicon atom, then form a covalent bond. Okay, now observe here, the unfortunately crystal depicted in figure B plays a crucial role in semiconductor devices, but it does not carry current in response to a voltage. Okay, what happens? Observe here, this is a crystal, only figure B. Observe only figure B. It is possible if we apply a voltage, then it will carries current or not, right? Okay. First of all, at temperature near absolute zero, the valence electrons are confined to their respective covalent bonds, refusing to move freely. In other words, the silicon crystal behaves as an insulator for temperature is equal to 0 degree Kelvin or at room temperature, right? So, at room temperature, this sentence is important. And this is for figure B covalent, this is for silicon crystal. At temperatures nearby absolute zero, the valency electrons are confined to their respective covalent bonds, refusing to move freely. Okay, in other words, the silicon crystal behaves as an insulator temperature at 0 degree Kelvin. So, by the property itself, when we process the silicon material properly, then we form a silicon crystal. Then observe the silicon crystal property at 0 degree Kelvin. At 0 degree Kelvin, what happens means all covalent bonds are formed and there is no electron freely moving. All are uh, confined to the respective covalent bonds only, refusing to move freely at 0 degree Kelvin. However, and observe here this one, however, at higher temperatures, electrons gain thermal energy, occasionally breaking away from the covalent bonds and acting as a free charge carriers. Okay. Now here this sentence also very, very important. What happened means here, okay. However, at higher temperatures, electrons gain thermal energy as temperature increases. Electrons gain thermal energy, occasionally breaking away from the bonds and acting as a free charge carriers. Now here the word is free charge carrier. So far we discussed valency electrons, right? Up to that, when it is formed in a covalent bond, all these things, so we can call it as a word as a valency electrons. Now once if observe here, third figure C 2.3c, free electron released by thermal energy. As temperature increases, due to that some electron may gain energy so that it will break the covalent bond. Now this is called as a free charge carriers. Remember this one, right? At higher temperatures, electrons gain thermal energy, occasionally breaking away from the bonds, covalent bond, and acting as a free charge carrier. Free charge carriers. Now observe here. Until they fall into another incomplete bond. Okay, then what is the function of free charge carrier? Means they fall. Free charge carrier may fall into another incomplete bond. Okay. Now again observe here. We will thereafter use the term electron to refer free electrons. Okay. Now come to the definition of holes. Right. Now we know the definition of electrons. Right. In a silicon crystal at 0 degree Kelvin, right, it behaves like a insulator. Okay. Okay, all electrons are bonded with their neighboring atoms so that no one electron is break the covalent bond. Now as temperature increases, there may be chance. As temperature further increases, some electron may gain the energy, they break the covalent bond, then they act as a free electron or free charge carrier, which is the electron. Okay, here what is this bond? Here after this bond, now this bond is incomplete bond. Incomplete bond, right? One electron is break the bond, covalent bond. Now this covalent bond is called the incomplete covalent bond. Okay, now we go for the definition of holes. Okay, when freed from a covalent bond, an electron leaves a void. Void means empty behind because the bond is now incomplete, called a hole. Now coming here, okay, here also 2.4a. Observe here in movement of electron through crystal. Okay, now here at higher temperatures, one electron break the covalent bond and release. Now this is a free electron. Now incomplete covalent bond, it form as a hole. It is an empty space, right? It is a hole, it is a empty space. It may receive one electron to complete the covalent bond, right? That means whenever an electron release or break the covalent bond, one hole is formed. Remember here, one hole is formed. Here one, observe here, first. Suppose it is a first covalent bond. First covalent bond is breaked. Now what happens means incomplete covalent bond form a hole. Okay. Sorry. So when freed from a covalent bond, an electron leaves a void, that means empty space behind, because the bond is now incomplete, called a hole. So the definition of hole and definition of electron is very important. Right? Such a void can readily absorb a free electrons if one becomes available. Thus, we say an electron hole pair is generated when atom is freed. What is meant by freed? Okay, if temperature increases, there may be chance some electron break the covalent bond and they are available freely. That is called the freed. If one electron is available, then what happens means one electron is freely available, one hole is created, right? Because incomplete covalent bond. So that what happens means one electron hole pair generated. One pair. That pair contains of one electron and one hole, right? Created. Okay. Thus we can say that electron hole pair is generated when an electron is freed, and an electron hole recombination occurs when an electron fall into a hole. Okay. Now we study. Why do we bother with the concept of hole? Right. After all, it is the free electron that actually moves in the crystal. To appreciate the usefulness of holes, consider the time of evolution illustrated in figure 2.4. Suppose the covalent bond number 1 contain a hole after losing an electron sometime before a T is equal to T1. Okay. Now observe here movement of electron through the crystal. Okay. A T is equal to T1, T is equal to T2, T is equal to T3. Okay. Mainly concentrate on this entire three figures, right? So that we can easily understand the movement of electron as well as movement of holes also, right? Already we defined the holes, what is meant by hole, how hole is created, and what is meant by electron, right? If the electron means this is a free electron of the rate 2.3, that one is called the electron, or free electrons is called free charge carriers, are also called electrons simply, right? Don't say all valence electrons, right? Whenever sufficient thermal energy gain, one particular energy may break the covalent bond, then it will act as a free electron, right? That is the definition of electron. Then hole, incomplete covalent bond form a hole. Now observe here. Suppose the covalent bond number 1 contains a hole after losing an electron sometime before T is equal to T1. Okay. T is equal to T1. Before T is equal to T1, one bond number 1 is incomplete. That means there is a one free electron and there is a one hole. Now at T is equal to T2, an electron breaks away from the bond number 2. In bond number 2, observe here, this is a bond number 2. In bond number 2, this electron gains some thermal energy, then it will break the covalent bond. Now what happens means, and recombines with the hole in bond number 1. Now what happens means, this electron, bond number 2 electron, is recombined with bond number 1 hole. Now bond number 1 is completely full. Bond number 1 is completely full. Now in this case what happened here? Now here one electron hole pair is generated. Why? Because bond number 2 electron free, bond number 2 incomplete hole. Okay. Similarly, at T is equal to T3, an electron leaves bond number 3. Observe here, This is the bond number 3. Okay, at T is equal to, as time progress, what happens means, suppose let us assume some temperature increases, some other bond atom here, this atom. Now bond number 3 breaks the covalent bond. Now what happened? Now this electron is a free. Now this electron recombines with bond number 2. It will fill the complete covalent bond at bond number 2. Right? Okay, and so on. Looking at the 3 snapshots. Snapshots means figures. We can say one electron has traveled from right to left, or alternatively, one hole has moved from left to right. Okay. Mainly observe the movement of electron, movement of holes. We can say that one electron has traveled from right to left, right side to left side. Why? Because third electron is filled with second covalent bond, and second covalent bond electron is filled with first covalent bond incomplete. So that the electron movement is, what is electron movement? Right side to left side. So 3, bond number 3 to bond number 1. Bond number 3 electron fills hole in bond number 2. Bond number 2 electron fills holes in bond number 1. So the movement is right side to left side. Then what is the hole movement here? Here observe here the hole. In first case at T is equal, before T is equal to 1. What is the hole? Hole at bond number 1, left side. T is equal to T2. What is hole? Second, bond number 2. Then at T is equal to T3. What is hole? Bond number 3. What is the movement here? What is movement? Left side to right side. So opposite. And main observation here it is opposite movement. So in a silicon crystal, the holes always moves from right to left, and electrons from right to left, holes move from left to right. Okay. Once again here, what is the hole movement? What is electron movement? Right here, observe here, third one, T is equal to T3 case. Covalent bond number 3 is incomplete. That means one electron is freely available. That electron fills the incomplete bond number 2. So what is the movement here? Movement is right to left. Similarly, when bond number 2 is incomplete, that is bond number 2 electron is free, that electron fills the bond number 1 incomplete hole. So what is movement here also? Right to left. Okay, when an electron moves from right to left, hole moves from left to right. Okay, this view of current flow by holes proves extremely useful in the analysis of semiconductor devices. This point also important. This observation, that means hole observation, there is in silicon crystal, there is a hole movement. Also there is an electron movement. Whenever an electron moving from one place to another place, what is electron changing means current is generated. Similarly, hole current, electron current. So especially in semiconductors, the current is generated from movement of holes as well as movement of electrons. Now we can say that is a electron current or hole current, right? Mainly concentrate, especially in semiconductors. Okay, not for remaining materials. Especially in semiconductors, the current generated or resulted from electrons as well as holes, right? Okay. Now come to the Another important point is band gap energy. Okay, what is mean by band gap energy? Okay. You must now answer two important questions here. First, does any thermal energy create free electrons and holes in silicon? Okay, what is the minimum thermal energy to create a free electrons or free hole? Okay, now here the answer is, what is the minimum energy required dislodge an electron from covalent bond? That is called the band gap energy. It is the minimum energy required for a silicon material to break up covalent bond. Okay, generally that is denoted by EG. Okay, band gap energy. Okay, this is the minimum fundamental property of the material. Not only this silicon, each material having its own band gap energy. For silicon material, the band gap energy is 1.12 electron volt. Okay, what is meant by EV? Here the units are small e, capital V, electron volt. What is meant by electron volt? Observe here, here is given. Okay. The unit electron volt represents the energy necessary to move one electron across a potential difference of 1 volt. So 1 electron volt is the minimum energy required for to move the one electron. Observe it, to move one electron across only 1 volt potential difference. Okay, that's why if it is a 1 volt, electron charge is 1.6 10 to 10 power minus 7 into 1 volt, that is equal to joules, 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 joules. Okay, now the second question related to the conductivity of the material and as follows. How many free electrons are created to a given temperature? Okay, now we observe the hole movement and also we know the electron movement, and also we know the from chemistry background or semiconductor background, we know the band gap energy. Now coming to the important is conductivity of material. Okay, we require how many electrons? Okay, whether it is a require 1 electron, 2 electron, how many we require electron, how many electrons we require to take place conductivity in a silicon material. Okay, that is important. Okay, from our observations, so far that means the number of electrons depends on band gap and temperature, right? Both number of free electrons for conductivity mainly depends upon, one is the band gap and second one is the temperature. A greater band gap is a greater is it translates a fewer electrons, only few electrons, but a higher temperature yields more electrons. Okay, to simply in future derivations we consider the density concentration of electrons, that is number of electrons per unit value. Okay, so generally people here mainly consider the unit value per centimeter. Suppose per centimeter is the unit value, how many electrons are there, right? Okay, there is a one popular equation that is called the Ni. What is Ni? Ni is the electrons per unit volume. Okay, where I indicates the intrinsic. Let's discuss what is meant by intrinsic. Ni is equal to 5.2 into 10 power 15 T 3 by 2 exponential minus Eg by 2 into kT electrons per cubic centimeter. Okay, where K is some Boltzmann constant. If you require some derivation, that derivation can be found in semiconductor physics books. Right. Now, we consider the simple problem here. 12:49 time. Okay, you can take to 1 o'clock, right? Now observe here. You can simple example. For example, band gap 2.5 electron volt for a diamond. Okay, conductor the ends. Okay, there is a one problem. Okay, determine the density of electrons in silicon at temperature 300 degree Kelvin, or room temperature, and T is equal to second case 600 degree Kelvin. Right. You know the band gap energy in silicon 1.12 electron volt. 1 electron volt is equal to 1.6 into 10 power minus 90. Okay, that is multiplied 1.12 is multiplied with 1.6. Okay, so that the resultant value is 1.792 into 10 power minus 9 joules. Okay. Then what is the Ni given? You have to find the Ni. T is equal to 300 degree Kelvin or room temperature. Okay, substitute here the values here. Here the find already calculated the easy value and the given temperature, and also you know the Boltzmann constant. Right. Now substitute how many electrons here at room temperature. 1.08 into 10 power 10 electrons per cubic centimeter. Within a small 1 centimeter cubic centimeter area, how many electrons? 1.08 into 10 power 10 electrons. Okay. At T is equal to 600 degree Kelvin, how many electrons here? 1.54 into 10 power 15 electrons. Right. Okay. Since for each free electrons, a hole is left behind, the density of hole is also given by 2.7. Okay. Whenever one electron is freely available, means one hole is indirectly created. Okay, how many holes here? How many electrons? These are the electron quantity. 1.08 into 10 power 10. Holes also same. 1.08 into 10 power 10 holes per cubic centimeter. Okay. Now here, this one is important. We may think that this number is a very large, but that is not true. Right? Observe here. The Ni values obtained in the above example may appear quite high, but nothing that the silicon has. Here the important noting point is the silicon has 5 into 10 power 22 atoms per cubic centimeter. So when we consider the silicon material per cubic centimeter, how many atoms here? 5 into 10 power 22. At room temperature, how many electrons here? 1.08 into 10 power 10 only. That means at least each atom cannot release one electron at least. That means we recognize that only one in 5 into 10 power 12 atoms benefit from a free electron at room temperature. That means at room temperature 300 degree Kelvin, not all covalent bonds are not break. Only few, not at least one from each atom. Right? One from each atom means again here 1 into 10 power 22 is the answer. But here what happened here? How many here? So that divide 5 into 10 power 22 divided by 1.08 10 power 10. Okay, around 5 into 10 power 12 atoms benefit, only these atoms benefit from a free electron at room temperature. Okay, in other words, this one also important. Silicon still seems a very poor conductor, but do not disappear. We next introduce a means of making silicon more usable. Okay. Okay. This is about time is 12:50. Modification of charge carriers. we discussed in this class. Once again, briefly we recall today class, right? Today class mainly about basics of semiconductor physics, right? And mainly semiconductor materials and their properties. Okay. In this, we are mainly concentrated on silicon material. Why? Because silicon is the main material, okay, available from land also. So that abundantly available in the nature. That's why most of the people preferred for silicon manufacturing the electronic devices, right? Okay. Then coming to the section of a periodic table. Okay, mainly concentrate on group 4 elements. In group 4 elements, especially silicon and germanium. Okay, semiconductor itself, it is not a purely conductor, it is not a purely insulator. The conductivity lies between conductor as well as insulator, right? We do not study in detail about conductor. Why? Because okay, there is nothing in conductor. Simply we apply some voltage difference, current is results. Okay, similarly we do not study the insulators. Why? Because when we apply large amount of voltage, okay, there is no conduction taking place. Then we are mainly concentrate on semiconductors. There is one group of elements, semiconductors. Why we study the semiconductor means the conductivity property of a material can be changed by the user. User means the engineers. We are the engineers can design, can control the conductivity of a semiconductor material, right? By properly applying the voltage levels, we can use silicon as an insulator. You can use silicon as a conductor. You can use silicon as a semiconductor itself. So that is all rounder. So that the study of semiconductor is very important. Why? Because it behaves like a insulator. Sometimes it behaves like a conductor. Sometimes it behaves like a semiconductor itself. Coming to the silicon at 0 degree and okay, now few basics of chemistry. The atom's chemical activity determined by the electrons in the outermost cell called a valence electron. Okay, mainly concentrate on outermost cell electrons, number of electrons, right? This electron determine the chemical property, chemical reaction property of a semiconductor of a material. And coming to the silicon, okay, there are only 4 outermost cell, and this is about silicon atom 2.3a. This is silicon crystal. Covalent bond is formed. Each neighboring atom share a 1 electron, so that covalent bond is formed. Now, as temperature increases, okay, there may be chance 1 electron or 1 or more electron come out of from the covalent bond. Then these electrons now free electrons, right? Now we can say that these electrons are called the free electrons or free charge carriers. Okay, electron having a charge, some charge. When electron movement taking place means charge carrier also taking place. Then what is the definition of a electron and what is the definition of a hole? At 0 degree Kelvin, okay, no covalent bonds are break, right? Okay, all are filled, are all completely tightly bonded with neighboring atoms, so that it behaves like a insulator. At 0 degree Kelvin, silicon behaves like an insulator. Okay, there is no breaking of covalent bonds. As temperature increases, there may be chance. And figure 2.4 indicates the hole moment and as well as electron movement. What is a hole moment here? Hole moment 1, 2, 3. What it indicates? Left to right, and electron movement opposite, right to left. Then what is the energy required to break the covalent bonds? That energy is called the band gap energy. For silicon, band gap energy is equal to 1.12 electron volt. Right. Then how we can calculate the number of free electrons? There is a one equation. Equation mainly depends upon the two parameters. One is band gap and another one is temperature. If you know the band gap energy and temperature, we can easily calculate the number of free electrons. Right. Now coming to the one simple problem at temperature 300 degree Kelvin, at temperature 600 degree Kelvin. At temperature 300 degree Kelvin, we calculated number of electrons 1.08 into 10 power 10. Similarly, volts also same, right? At 600 degree Kelvin, 1.54 into 10 power 15. Similarly, volts also same. But here number after calculation, we thinking that the number is very high. That is not correct, right? Come to the property of a silicon per cubic centimeter. How many atoms here? 5 into 10 power 22 atoms are there. If each atom release one electron at least, right? If each atom release at least one electron, then you get more number of electrons here. But that is not happen at room temperature. Okay, only how many atoms are there? How many atoms? Only 1 in 5 into 10 power 12 atoms benefit from a free electron at room temperature. Okay, there is a possibility is there. Still some electrons may break the covalent bonds as temperature still increases. What happen at temperature 600 Kelvin, 1.54 into 10 power 15 electrons, right? There may be chance 10 power 22. Okay. Okay, in other words, this one is important. Silicon still seems a very poor conductor. It is not a good conductor at this stage. But do not disobey. Okay, do not disobey. We next introduce a means of making silicon more useful. Right? Then in next class, modify the carrier densities. Why? Because at room temperature only few electrons are available. Then how to increase the number of electrons further? Okay, that is called the doping concept, right? That is discussed in next class, right? Okay, thank you all for listening and joining, and I request